Hello, and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and I am so excited that you decided to tune in today. With me, I have two phenomenal ladies, ladies of strength, ladies of courage, two ladies that I've actually literally known for more than 30 years. It is a pleasure to have them with me today. So, without any further delay, I would like to introduce to you Miss Jerry Dixon and Miss Sonia Fauski. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. How are you ladies doing today?
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
all
Doing well.
right.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we dive into our conversation for today, I'm going to give each of you an opportunity to introduce yourselves formally and, just tell us a little bit about yourself. So I'll start with you, Jerry, if you would tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. And thank you again for inviting me to share today. And I am, I like to call myself a regular person, going through struggles of life just like anybody else. I was actually raised as an only child. And, that has been a journey in good and bad. But that's also what makes me me. Um, I currently am living in Phoenix, and my quote unquote day job is as a healthcare compliance officer. But my passion and what I like to really pour into is my divorce and wellness coaching, taking my own challenges, and which I'm sure we're going to be talking about, and moving through those and how to help others learn from and be supported through uh, different challenges and struggles through life.
All right, that is awesome. That is awesome. And like you said, we will delve into that a little bit more throughout the podcast. Sonia, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Thanks for having me. I'm here in Evanston, Illinois, and I, have, been in the Chicago area ever since college, and I teach. I've been Montessori upper elementary classroom teacher, and next year is going to be my 30th year. So I'm really
Wow.
passionate about working with kids and, helping people become whoever it is that they're going to be.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Real quick, Sonia, did you always know that you wanted to be a teacher?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That is awesome. 30 years. That's huge. Okay. Okay. And again, Jerry, you're doing some great works as well. And like I said, we're going to, for both of you, we're going to dig into that a little bit further as the show goes on. So thank you for introducing yourselves. Of course, I'm an only child as well, Jerry, so I know what the only child life is like. Sonia, do you have any siblings or are you also an only
Yeah.
child? Okay.
I have a younger sister.
Okay. Okay. You have a younger sister. All right. And I know both of you are moms. How many children do you have? One daughter, right, Sonia?
Yes, I have one
Okay.
daughter,
How
Rose,
and
14. So
14. Wow, that's scary. See, my daughter's 15. It's happening too fast. And Jerry, you have two adult children now, and you have
I do. I
a
was going
son
to
and a
say, I
daughter.
remember those days, those teens. I have a, I have a son and a daughter, both grown, and actually my son is married, and my daughter, come September, will also be married. So
All right, awesome, awesome. That is man, that is just fascinating. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, okay. Well, let's jump right in. The first thing that I wanted to bring up as far as a point of conversation today is I know that each of you have had the experience, the challenge, if you will, of what it's like being a single mom. And as I shared with you prior to the start of our broadcast, I told you that growing up in a home, being raised by a single mom, I have a great admiration, great appreciation for what that role represents. I know how much my mom meant to me, and she was the the motivation behind me even writing my book, was centered about that relationship and what she meant to me. So to see two ladies like yourselves to stand strong and be able to survive, the challenges and the obstacles that come with single parenting, I applaud you, beyond measure. So with that said, I do I would like for you, I should say, to share that journey with the audience. Just kind of take us through, what led you to being single parent, and what was that journey like, and any challenges that you might have faced, and how you were able to sort of navigate through that. So I'll start with you, Sonia. Kind of walk us through that for you, what your experience was like as a single mom.
Sure. Um, I would just start by saying, first of all, it's just been the most amazing journey ever, and I've just always been so grateful. So I had been in a 16-year relationship, and I was 38, and I'd always wanted a daughter. And then when I found out that I was having one, um, I was so excited, but my partner didn't want to be involved, just didn't want to do it. And so I was like, I just knew that I really wanted to. So I was like, okay, well, not the dream fully, but it's the dream come true of having the daughter. So I just jumped in with both feet. I was pretty scared. It's kind of a really big undertaking. I'm sure everyone feels that way, when you find out you're going to be a parent. Um, and so sometimes it was a little much and a little overwhelming, like a lot of weight. Um, but I was always felt like it was like supposed to be. And every time I would struggle with something, like, in the beginning, anyone knows when you're a new parent, it's like a really big hit on the budget, all these new expenses. And so I would like just
Mm.
sometimes struggle for things, like I might be like, oh no, we're almost out of diapers, and, payday's a little bit off. And then, like, all these, it was always like a miracle every time, because, like, whenever I would just kind of put it out there, like in my mind, like, oh, I need this thing, like some friend or family member would just like show up at my door and go, I was like looking through my closet and I saw these diapers. I think that they'll fit your daughter. Here, I was just led to bring them to you. And I just can't tell you the number of times that happened. Or if I was like short on food, and then someone would just be like, oh, I just wanted to stop by, and have dinner with you. And just it was, I just always felt like taken care of, right? Like no matter what the struggle was, it always got solved, and just felt protected and looked out for in that way. So, and then I think I have loved every single second of being a parent, and all the stages, even the hard ones, like, teething and being up all night and having to go work all day. Um, but it was just always so fun. And I felt that it also was such a blessing, because it was always just she and I from the beginning, that um, we're so close, right? And I never had to like share, she never had to share her attention with anyone else, or, I was never pulled in another direction. So we were always able to just do so many cool things together.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And if anybody has seen your pictures of you and your daughter, you can just tell just from the still shots that the two of you are extremely close to one another, and it seems like you just have lots of fun. So that is a great testimony. And I think the key word that you said in your whole story was like, you know, the blessing part. Because those things, those moments, that timing, and when you had that need and you didn't know how it was going to navigate itself out, how it was going to work out, and then here's someone that's showing up, whether it's to provide food, to provide money, to provide support, and that from our standpoint, that's just God blessing you, and that's a wonderful thing. And I think it's important that we put that out there, because that was not an accident, that was not luck, that was God looking out for you, and I'm glad that He did, and who better to do that for? Because like I said, it's clear that you're committed to your role of motherhood, and doing the best that you can to provide for your daughter. So that's an awesome story for that. Jerry, please share with us what your journey was like as single mom. How did that play out for you?
My journey, and what a journey it was. I was married for 20 years, with absolutely no intention of ever not being married. Um, even as I would go through struggles of in marriage like any other marriage goes through, the ups and downs and the challenges and things of that sort. I never really even entertained the concept of not remaining married.
Hmm.
And so by the time I got to that point, I was just told that, hey, I'm out, and figure out what you're going to do with the kids. So that was my launch into being a single parent. Both of my children at the time were in high school. Well, one was in high school, one was in middle school.
Hmm.
So that was also a challenging time. One was just getting into high school. One is was um, getting ready to finish up his second year of middle school. So those are challenging times and trying times. Trying to figure out steps of just the day to day. It was never a thought that I couldn't do the day to day things.
Hmm.
It was I hadn't had to do so many things before, and now I had to figure out how I was going to also fit those things in that up to that point had counted on my spouse to do so. So, it was a lot of going through my own loss, my own grieving process from my marriage, as well as trying to also be that strength for both of my children, and then figuring it all out. And so, unfortunately, and I can sit there and say honestly, unfortunately, I had to go through that. But um, is there anything that I truly regret? I don't. I don't, because there are also so many blessings that because of my journey through healing and the things that I have really put in the work to do for myself. I've now gotten to this other side that I can look back and see the blessings now. When something is put upon you, sometimes it's hard to see those
Hmm.
until you can kind of step back and say, okay, you know what? It's gonna be fine. Sonia, I really loved hearing about that timing, people showing up at the door or providing this or that. I had so many similar things, at some of those times where I was struggling to figure out, okay, how am I going to put food on the table? Because up to that point, I actually was a stay-at-home mom for the most part. Had worked in actually owned a business, but it was not a business that um, I could fully count on providing for the family. It truly was one of, it was a nonprofit, and I really did not set it up to be able to bring in a full salary. So for the most part, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had been homeschooling my kids up to that point before they re-entered the school system. So having to figure some of those things out, and then just having those people around me, my village, was able to show up when, I was too embarrassed to even ask. Sometimes I didn't even know what to ask for. And I definitely agree. It was definitely God, because if I didn't know what to ask, then somebody had to be able to share that need.
Hmm.
So.
Wow, wow. And so, with you having still, young kids at the time when the divorce takes place, like, what was that like for them? Um, and how did you go about
Whew.
trying to, I guess, help it make sense as best as you could possibly help it make sense to where they didn't, I don't know, get too overwhelmed by it all? What was that like?
It was a huge struggle.
Hmm.
Um, my son, I kind sometimes I kind of share. Well, I do share. My son was in football at the time, so there were times where I could really tell he was leaving it out on the field.
Hmm.
his frustrations and his anger. He left a lot of it on the field. My daughter, she was not as involved with extracurriculars in that manner, physical extracurriculars, and so she definitely took it harder. Um, but from the very beginning, I really worked on being intentional in what I was communicating to them. You know, he's still your father. I need for you to make sure that you show that kind of respect for him being your father. I was never restrictive of, them seeing him. Unfortunately, that was not something that he wanted at the time. So, that was a huge struggle in them trying to figure all of that out, um, come to terms with a lot of that. Um, so I was there. We did a
Hmm.
lot of counseling.
Okay.
Um, I just remember holding it together or trying to hold it together so well. We all went to counseling, and the moment that the more I just remember the morning I got the official signed um, divorce papers, signed from the state and everything. I remember just going, well, it's done. But I didn't know what to do with that. And I kind of put the forms back in the paper in the envelope, and we went on with our day. We had had a day out. The kids and I had already had a day out, so we went on with that. And I remember the next morning waking up, and I could not stop crying. And my daughter was right there, and she actually the one time that she told me that she wasn't going to school, and she just told me, she goes, "Mom, I'm staying home. I'm not leaving you here." And I never wanted my kids to feel the weight of that kind of responsibility. But fortunately, she was at a stage where she reached out to our therapist and coordinated me getting there. And I just remember my therapist saying, "You know what, Jerry, you have been doing a phenomenal job with the kids and making sure that their needs are met, their emotional needs are met, their physical needs are met. And we knew this time was coming. Now it's time for you."
Hmm.
And so with that, it was like I had really pressed away my need and my feelings and what I needed to address so that I could be there for my kids. And then it was my turn. And I had to spend that time starting to peel back those layers.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And again, appreciate you very much for just your transparency in that. I mean, I'm sure that's not an easy conversation to have. But you said some powerful things in the mix of that. Just trying to be intentional to look out for their needs. Because as kids, it's hard to process and understand that. And when you mentioned about your son, I totally related to that because I'm thinking, yeah, sons with their moms, he probably was literally taking it out on the field. And then the daughter, I think about my relationship with my own daughter. I'm sure that there was, prior to everything breaking off like it did, you have that daddy daughter thing. And so now if dad is going to be pulled away, that's a hard thing to process. So, hats off to you for the way you were able to navigate that and just make it work to the best of your ability. And I'm glad that even in that young stage of your daughter, she had the foresight to understand, mom needs to be taking care of herself too. That I'm sure they
Mhm.
were both appreciative that you were looking out for them, but you had to do that for you as well.
Yeah.
Which makes for a
Yeah.
great segue into our next uh, segment here. Um, and this is something I want to hear from both of you. As you think back to whether we're talking about your challenges as single parents and what led to all of that, or just any adversities in general, what have you found to be your sort of regimen or routine, if you will, that you've leaned into that you found to be impactful for you when it comes to processing and being able to deal with adversity in terms of to help you heal, to help you to rejuvenate and say, what, it's okay for me to cry, it's okay for me to be angry, it's okay for me to be sad about a particular situation that I'm going through, but I know I can't stay locked into that. I have to somehow, move forward. So I'll start with you, Sonia. What has been helpful for you in terms of healing when you think about, everything that you've been through, challenges wise, adversity wise? What has worked for you, and in that regard?
Sure. Well, for me, I always just try to remember that everyone is on their own journey. And most of the time, anything that someone else does is not really about me, right? It's about them and their journey. And so sometimes I can, you know, try to hold myself responsible for things that aren't in my area of responsibility. So I just remind myself that to like not personalize it. And whenever I'm faced with something and I'm just really not sure what to do, because sometimes as a single parent, you have to solve these challenges that come up with life, whether it's like balancing your work schedule and your child's schedule, and you have to work late, and what are you going to do for childcare? Or, oh no, mom, I outgrew my shoes. And you're like, oh dear, I don't have money for shoes right now. Whatever it is, I really just learned to like let go and let God.
Hmm.
And so, whatever was troubling me or whatever I felt like I didn't have the answer for, I would just pray about it and then I would sleep on it. And most of the time, like when I would wake up in the morning, like the answer would just sort of like pop into my head, like whatever the solution was. I'd just be like, oh, okay. And then it just felt like all the weight like was gone, like the worry was gone and it was handled. So yeah, that would, if you're looking for what my mantra was, I would say, and still is just let go and let God.
All right, absolutely, absolutely. That's that's definitely something to live by. Jerry, what for you? How did you? What have you leaned into? What has been your sources, if you will, that you rely upon to promote healing, to promote, peace of mind and things of that nature, so that way, even in the midst of the storms, you can still stay, keep standing. You can still stay, eyes straight ahead, and not feel like that this is the end of it all for you.
Right. It was definitely a combination. One was in first and foremost my faith.
Hmm.
Um, in my life and my journey through life, as well as hugely in my transition from being married to going through my divorce and then healing. Um, I had some struggles with my faith, and part of it was how some of the people even in my own congregation were interacting with me around my divorce. And so I really ended up at that point trying to figure out, and actually it helped me in understanding my faith a little bit more, that it's not about the people, and it was about my relationship with God. And when I stuck to that, really focused on how I could build that relationship, um, that actually helped me in saying, hey, you know what? I'm not alone. I got this. Um, and the reason I have this is because of my faith, because of God, that I can, continue to take those steps forward. And so that was huge for me. I could sit there and say, oh, the negatives of the challenges that I had been dealing with within my church, but it actually was something that helped launch me into an understanding and a stronger faith, which helped me through this journey. The other piece I did was I started running. I started long distance running. And at 43 years old, I ran my first half marathon. And through the journey of um, training for that, um, it gave me a whole lot of thinking time. And I found it allowed me the time that my brain could just process things. And that is when I was doing podcasts at the time, that was when I would come up with my topics. Well, that's when I started writing, and things would flow. And there were those times where I'd sit there and I'd be running. I'm like, oh, there's the answer, but it was because I was allowing myself to improve my spiritual life and improve my physical life.
Awesome, awesome. And I think it's interesting that you made reference to the fact that you decided running was a part of your journey and healing. Just because I still remember back in our college days when you were into bodybuilding. And so
Yeah.
it was almost like you had this bodybuilding thing going and you got away from it. And who knew decades later, while it wasn't technically
Mhm.
bodybuilding, it still involved some rigorous form of
Yeah.
exercise. And
Yes.
you found strength in that. You found, yourself being refreshed in that. And it reminds me that was the same passion that you had back then when you were bodybuilder. So it was like you had recaptured something that you had sort of let go, and it
Yeah.
now served as a healing method for you decades later. So that connection of that, I remember that, and I'm just thinking, wow, that's the full circle of it all. And I think
Yes.
that's just how God works.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Sonia, what you talked about is like, you know, again, you talked about how, you know, basically, despite what you're going through, despite the challenges, you learn to look at the other side of it and say, basically say,
Hmm.
I'm going through this for a reason. There's something in this that I'm supposed to glean, something I'm supposed to learn from it. It doesn't feel good. It's not,
Right.
it's not the way I planned it out. It wasn't a part of the dream. But in retrospect, now you're like, okay, now I see why I had to go through what I had to go through, because it was to shape me, it was to mold me, it was to put me in a position to be able to pour into, again, other people in other ways, based off of my storms, based off of my challenges and experiences. And both of you have exhibited variations of that very thing. So
Mhm.
that's really powerful. So with that, um, I would like for you, if you had an opportunity to, whether it was to talk to your younger selves or just to even talk to anybody who might be listening to this podcast episode that has gone through some of the things that you've gone through, or maybe going through it right now, what would be some words of encouragement that you would have for them as to what they should consider or perhaps, keep in mind as they go through that particular storm? I'll start with you, Sonia. What would you say to, again, to the younger Sonia, or even to somebody like right now who might have be going through or have gone through a similar situation that you've dealt with adversity wise?
I would definitely say that just remember that you're not alone, that you're protected and looked out for, and that everything works out. Because I know that sometimes when you're suddenly thrust upon an unexpected journey in life, it can be very scary and unsure. But I think it's just important to remember you're not alone. God is with you, and there's so many people in your life who love and care about you, and you're going to have help all the time, and it's all going to work out for the best. And you are supposed to be experiencing this. That's what life is, right? Like learning so many things about life and yourself and growing. And so I would just say, remember that you're not alone. God is with you.
Awesome, awesome. And have you found some of that same messaging, uh, to a certain degree, come out in some of the writings of your books that you've done? Have you found some of that playing off of certain experiences to 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 appear in some, whether it's subtle or direct?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean that's like the kind of stuff that I like to write about is, encouraging people. Um, especially like whether it's you're a parent and you have a tween and you're like, I don't know what to do, or you're a new teacher in the classroom and you're like, wait, no one told me anything about what it's really like. When I was studying it in school. Yeah, just to encourage people and so, reach out and know it's going to be okay and know that you have everything you need. God's with you. So, yeah, definitely. Same themes.
Absolutely, that's great. That's great. And Jerry? What would you say to young Jerry, or to say to the Jerrys of the world who might be going through a similar thing that you've gone through, the challenges and the adversities? What would your words of encouragement be to those ladies?
Well, many of those things that Sonia just said, but also, just slow down. Slow down and feel what you're going to feel. Um, just because you stop for a moment, take in what you're going through, just don't stick there. Don't stay there. Don't stay in the muck. But you have to be aware of it and you have to feel what you're going to feel so that it can help you move forward. Um, even in my divorce and wellness coaching, I tell people, look, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't want you to feel the pain. If the pain is going to be there, feel it, figure out what you're going to do with it, and then move forward. And, I'm not here to take away your pain. I'm not here to cover up your pain. Um, we have to sometimes go through some stuff that's not great so that we can get to the better. And that would probably be it. That would be one of the big things for me, and that has always been one of the big things that I do share. Um, we're in a society that so often we want to band-aid, or we want to cover up, or we want to not acknowledge feelings, or not acknowledge unpleasant experiences. And unfortunately, I think what that does is it really stifles us. It keeps us from being able to address things head on and address things and learn how to do it with grace because aren't given the opportunity to try to figure it out.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's wonderful. All right. Well, again, I kind of highlighted, with Sonia about, using your experiences in your writing, and of course, Jerry, using your experiences in your wellness coaching. So, with that said, this is a part of the podcast where I want to, celebrate. I want to talk about some things that you all are doing, projects that you may have coming up, exciting things that you want to make mention of. So, I'll start with you, Sonia. What is Sonia doing these days? Anything that you're working on, new book, whether something that just came out or working on new projects, new life adventures. Tell us anything that you'd like to share that we can celebrate for you.
Yes. Of course, my favorite accomplishment is, being a mother. And, my daughter's about to start high school. And so that's very, very exciting. And, she's just growing up so beautifully. So I just feel so blessed, um, to been able to have this experience. In addition to that, my new adventure, I don't have anything new that I'm writing right now, but I'm going to start next week teaching grad school. So
Oh,
I'm teaching teachers, how to be Montessori teachers in elementary schools. So it's like just in Chicago. So teachers that are already certified and Chicago public school teachers, but then their schools are becoming Montessori, practicing that method of education. And so I'm teaching them how to do that. So that's very exciting to share my experiences with new people.
that is awesome. That is awesome. And we celebrate that. We congratulate you on that. That's great work, and 30 years of hard work and commitment and dedication and just pouring your all into it. That just makes it that much more better because you're operating out of your passion, but more importantly, you're operating out of your calling. You were meant to do this, and so God is using you accordingly. So I'm glad to hear that. What about you, Jerry? What's going on with anything exciting coming up? I know sometimes you do like retreats and things like that with your wellness and stuff. What's going on with you? What you got coming up?
What's going on? Well, first, I want to tell Sonia that's awesome. I love that. I love the fact that you're a Montessori teacher. Both of my kids actually were in Montessori for several years. Started off, and I have such a huge heart for the theory and the practice, and so awesome, awesome.
Thank you.
Um, so I'm celebrating you. um, for me, as I have gone through my journey and am now in Phoenix, and as I said, my day job is as a healthcare compliance officer, and I love it. Over the last several weeks, I've really felt more of a pull to pour more into my divorce and wellness coaching. And actually, I have a coach, I have a mentor as well, and even as of just a few days ago, he told me, he's like, Jerry, you really need to do exactly what you've been telling me that you need to do with your divorce and wellness coaching, and and you need to write. And I have three books actually that are partially written that I kind of sat on the table or in the cupboard, and so I'm dusting those off and getting ready to go on and pour into those and make those happen. And then starting to again design some um, retreat seminar um, types of agendas so that I can kind of, after after the world shut down for a few years, kind of picking that back up and getting back to doing those things that really make my heart sing. Helping others, helping especially women who might be in a similar situation that I was at, when I was starting off in my journey. Understanding, no, you're not alone. I can be side by side with you, and let's get you to a point where you can start seeing the positives. So I really am starting to take those steps again, like I said, to write again and to get those retreats going back in full force again.
That is awesome. And again, we celebrate you and congratulate you on that. And you just picked up two accountability partners. Make sure you get them books written. So we got to bug you every now
Okay.
and then and say, you writing? You writing?
Yep. Yep.
You can do
Please
it.
do.
Because once is anybody who's like us, if you've had an opportunity to be an author and write, it can be very easy for you to get into those lulls where you just
Mhm.
don't get to it. And it's not even about writer's block or anything like that. You're just
Right.
distracted with other things,
Life.
and but you yeah,
Hmm.
just with life. But you got a story to tell there, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's more than one story. It's multiple stories in different
Hmm.
aspects, different areas. So
Hmm.
keep writing, keep encouraging, keep preparing those seminars and retreats and things of that nature. Sonia, you keep doing the same thing. Keep reaching out to
Yeah.
grad students, and maybe someday you'll be talking to doctorate students, and you'll be just next thing we'll look up. She'll have her own Montessori school.
Hmm.
So we just go ahead and speak that into existence right now. Now,
That's
now the one
right.
celebration that you did not mention, that I'm not sure if Sonia knows about, you did of course have the opportunity to experience love again. So you did get remarried. You've been married
I
now how long?
do.
A little bit over. Has it been a little over a
Oh,
year now?
a little over a year. Actually, in November it'll be 2 years. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So, and that probably, not probably, that did play a part in me backing out of, doing a few things because that's where my focus really needed to be on building that relationship. Was able to meet a wonderful man and has been extremely supportive. He also keeps asking me, when are you going to start writing again? So,
See. Yep.
um, but it really was wonderful for me as I put in so much work to build me. I knew I was not necessarily meant, or did I want to live golden years by myself.
Hmm.
And it wasn't that I needed a man. Wasn't that I needed another person. It was that was what I wanted. And but I also knew that I was not going to just settle or decide that I needed to force myself into a relationship. And it ended up being a great friend. We built an amazing friendship. Both of us were actually a little bit shy about even saying, let's take this next step because we were both I just remember him saying, I don't want this to ruin our friendship. We have such an amazing friendship. And, what would happen if we decide to, start truly dating and beyond and something falls apart. And so that was a fear. And so we just spent a lot of time talking and praying about it. And there was just a moment that we just finally said, this is it. And it's been an amazing journey, um, to just be able, and my kids love him. He has a daughter who is amazing as well and married too. So we both, all of our kids are around the same age. They all know each other and enjoy being around each other. So it's been a really awesome experience, to something that I knew I wanted, but to a point was not even sure that would even happen.
Hmm.
So
Well, that's awesome, and again, congratulations on that. And
thank
and
you.
just and again, just having gone through divorce or anytime you go through a tumultuous type of relationship, there are a lot of women who may feel like, will I ever find that one again? Will I ever experience true love again? So just you even sharing that little moment, might be of encouragement to someone who's thinking it's over just because you had one bad relationship. I think you live long enough, you have your share of bad relationships,
That's
but
right. That's right.
eventually, just know that there's always somebody out there that's the right one for you. And I think the key
Hmm.
thing that you said is you don't settle. You don't just,
Hmm.
get in just for the sake of having someone, but acknowledge what your value is. Both of you ladies bring a great deal to the table. So yes, you should have high standards as to who you connect with and who should have the honor of connecting with you. So I'm proud of you
That's
for loving yourself enough to acknowledge that and say, no, I'm just not going to just be with somebody just to say I am,
right. Hmm.
because that can lead to another realm of unhappiness that you don't
Hmm.
need that in your life right now. So, all
That's right.
right. Well, this has been a awesome time. I have thoroughly enjoyed having you two ladies on the podcast today. Again, it has been my privilege and honor to be in your company. Thank you for carving out time out of your busy schedules. I know you got life and family and all kind of other things going on, but it has been definitely a treat, and I'm sure our listeners have enjoyed this as well. So, thank you so much for being with us today. Um, and I wish you nothing but the best in all your future endeavors. And we will certainly, of course, do a better job at keeping in touch because we've known each other way too long not to do so. So that's a whole sidebar, different conversation. But I just want to put that out there. We got to do better
Hmm.
with
Yeah.
that. So. With that said, that brings an end to our podcast. I thank you for all who have joined in to listen to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you found value in this, please like, please share, please comment, please subscribe to the channel. And again, thank you for being here. And just remember, when it comes to the Blessings in the Street podcast, this is the place where we believe that your glory is your story, your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. Keep that in mind. Until next time, take care and God bless.